pounds. So already 10 beers was just
a
put me under,
shitload.
right?
Yeah.
So there I am, already that drunk. And my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, let's go down to our place. We have some other stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, sweet, let's go." And I remember crawling through the part of the river because I lost the trail to get back to his Jeep.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, so I'm soaking wet. I get into the back of his Jeep. He actually wouldn't let me sit in the actual back of the seats.
Yeah.
So he throws me in the back of the actual Jeep, the back end. And I'm tossing around in there. We're listening to Smashing Pumpkins. And this was the 90s, you guys. And listening to Smashing Pumpkins. And then we make it down to my other buddy's house. And there I had 4 shots of plum rum.
Yeah.
On top of those 10 beers. And
probably a mistake.
Oh, man. This is the worst. The worst is yet to come. So we drink there, and then we move on to another place. And this is all timeline probably happened in like 2 hours, right? So I drank all this in probably under 2 hours. And we get to the next place, my sister's place. And she had a friend we named Crazy Carrie. Her name was Carrie, but she was literally crazy. You guys, she was crazy. And she could drink anybody under the table. So she challenges me to a drinking contest. Taking advantage of this kid.
Bad mistake.
Yeah, this kid that's
You're
already totally drunk.
10 beers in and a freaking rum.
Yeah.
And...
Oh, man. So she's like, I got what you need. And I'm like, I'm a bring it on. Let's do this. Right. And she pulls out 151 proof Bacardi rum.
Yeah.
It's 75% alcohol. I mean, I've seen people take a half a shot and be just drunk. And she pours me nearly 8 ounces. 8 ounces. And then a little bit of orange juice. And then pours herself some and some orange juice. And she's like, "Okay, whoever passes out first."
Do this.
And I didn't even set it down. The whole thing. That's the last thing I remember till the next day. So I blacked out. They said I was headbanging for a while to some Nirvana, which was my favorite band at the time, and then I just passed out. And that was before the party started. So this was all pre-party, which was common for me to get totally wasted before the party started. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like, "Hey, where's everybody?" And they're like, "They all left, dude, because you just took too long, right?" So the next day, this is where it all got a little crazy, as if that wasn't crazy enough. So the next day, I wake up, and I'm not sick. I was expecting to just start puking, and I'm like, I'm not sick. I'm still drunk. This is weird. And I'm like, what's going on? So I kind of go throughout the day. A few hours go by. I'm feeling really weird. Still kind of drunk. It starts to wear off towards the end of the day.
And then you get the hangover.
Oh, it was horrible. And it wasn't just like any hangover you've ever, oh man. So I started, every heartbeat felt like pounding on every nerve all the nerves in my body. It was like pounding effect, like this. Like that. Just pounding in my whole body's in convulsions, right? And the sun starts to go down, and I'm sitting in my mom's room. Nobody's there. I invited a friend over. Nobody's there. And my friend's like, "Dude, what's going on, dude? You're like sweating." But I was cold. I was having cold sweats.
Yeah.
And I started going pale, and he's like, "Dude, you look like you're dying." And I'm like, I don't feel good. So I call up my sister, and as I'm on the phone with my sister to come and pick me up, I started hallucinating. And this is because the alcohol was actually in my bloodstream to the point where it wouldn't even matter to pump my stomach. It had been too long.
That's so crazy.
And I started hallucinating. I saw demons out my window. I saw spiders crawling down the walls. And of course I start freaking out. I'm yelling, I'm screaming, and my buddy who'd never drank in his life, he's like next to me and he's like, "Dude, what is going on? Like, what is wrong with you?" And so he he grabs the phone. He tells my sister, "You really need to come and pick him up." And this was the sister that ended up passing away later. And she's like, "Okay, I'll send Two Eagles over," who's this Native American dude that she was hanging out with. And
that was his name.
Two Eagles. Yeah. Yeah, Two Eagles. He was part of the Kickapoo tribe. Dude, the guy was an interesting fellow. We'll talk about that another time. I learned some stuff from him, but about the ways of life, right? But anyways, he came and picked me up, and we went back over to his place, or where he was staying at the time. And he's like, "We got to get this out of your body." So I'm drinking. He had me drinking like a whole bottle, like a whole huge bottle of tomato juice and anything he could get into my body to try and throw it up. Well, here's the thing. Things were coming out the other end. They were not throwing up. And it got worse and worse. The symptoms got worse. I was literally like constant shakes, constant, just the whole night. My sister had to rub my feet all night. Then the next day, same thing. It didn't go away.
Yeah.
4 days go by. Okay, 4 days go by.
That's a long time to be sick from alcohol. And
yeah. So if you've ever seen the movie Tombstone, Doc Holliday, right before he dies, where that's how he looked, because that movie had come out just right around the same time.
So you had that.
Yeah. I'm like, I look like Val Kilmer, right? And so 4 days go by. And this was the part that I feel like everybody feels is the hardest, is that finally I get to this point where I'm starting to feel better. And my oldest sister calls me up. She calls the house that I was at. And she's like, where are you? I can't seem to find you. And I said, well, I'm with Emily. And she's like, well, yeah, I'm calling there. And you seem to be like, so I'm hearing that you're sick. And so I tell her the story and everything. And she's like, oh, wow. So I'm going to call mom. So she calls my mom, which my mom hadn't even contacted me up to this point.
Yeah.
So she calls up my mom.
That's crazy.
And she's like, do you know where Jonathan is? And I'm like, and she's like, oh, no, he's probably out with his friends, probably hiking somewhere. And my sister was like, Mom, your son has been gone for almost 5 days and he's nearly dead and you don't even know. She's like, I don't know what else she said to her, but I'm sure it was something along the lines of, I hate you, and I'm coming down to pick him up. She hangs up the phone. She drives down from Ogden, Utah, all the way down to Richfield. I mean, literally right then. Packs up my stuff, and I leave. And I have never lived with my mother again.
And what age were you?
I was 13.
13, and you are done with your mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't receive any help, anything like that. From then
on,
I had
you lived with your sister?
Lived with my siblings, yeah. I got passed around to a few different siblings.
Okay. And where did they all live pretty close together?
So there were 3 siblings that lived up in Ogden, Utah. And that's where, I kind of got passed around for about almost 4 years.
Yeah, they just do shifts.
Yeah, pretty much. Mostly lived with my oldest sister most of the time.
Yeah.
Kind of helped raise her boys and things like that. But from that point, it didn't stop there. You would think like, dude, kid, you almost died. Stop drinking.
You would think, but kids are dumb. See,
the thing is to be honest, I didn't feel like I had the emotional love or support.
Yeah.
And
you just didn't have someone to say it's okay,
Yeah, to take care of me. So you kind of some of the basic human needs. Well, one of them was one that was lacking.
Yeah,
and that was the emotional support that you get from your parents.
Yeah,
a lot of people that grow up either with one parent or maybe neither. It can be hard. There's like a void. There's something missing in their life. And I can tell you right now that it is possible to overcome that.
Oh, yeah.
I have. I overcame it all.
There's multiple cases in which that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can either look back at your past and view it as like an excuse to not move forward and do the things that you need to do in your life, or you can look at it and use it as a tool to learn from.
Yeah.
And to grow from.
Yeah.
And to accept that it was your life and it helped build you character.
So David Goggins talks about an accountability mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he did or does is write stuff that he wanted to be accountable on his mirror.
Sure.
And he just focuses on that and says like an affirmation and
sure.
And yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to hear what I did then?
Yeah.
Okay. So how I did it, I didn't have anybody. There was no mentors, nobody to really tell me what to do.
And you're 13 years old.
So that was 13 when I moved up to my sister's house.
Yeah.
From then on, there were lots of other experiences that happened. That one just had a huge imprint, and I feel like people need to know that. But by the time I was 19, I was addicted to a lot of things, right? And I knew I needed to stop drinking. So there was a new addiction that came, and it was pain. And I started my own fight club.
Yeah.
And there can be a healthy way to do that, but we did not do it the healthy way. Imagine the movie Fight Club and think of how that turned out. So this was pre-Fight Club movie, though, when we started our Fight Club. And we just called it Tap Out, right? We had a basement that we used. There were concrete walls and a floor. And we had all just beat each other up.
Yeah.
One after one after another. Just, someone would fight, and then you'd get another couple people brawling, and then another couple people brawling. And
was it bare knuckle?
It was bare knuckle. No gloves, nothing. I mean, I have a missing tooth. Luckily my nose isn't sideways, right? Look at it. It's not sideways. But I definitely have broken a couple noses of other people. But it kind of got to the point where it was an addiction. All of us troubled kids that just felt like we needed feeling. That's really what it came from.
I can get that.
Yeah.
Like, that's another reason why people do drugs, And luckily, you weren't doing those kind of drugs, so.
Yeah. I saw my siblings do pretty hardcore drugs. And I had friends that were into heroin and things like that, and I watched what it did to them, and I never jumped into that.
Really bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of different things, but I did not get into the really hardcore stuff. So
that's good.
It was more like I was the person that wanted the adrenaline, the thrill, the jumping off an 80-foot cliff, that was the kind of thing that I was after. I wanted that massive feeling. So I had a hardcore metal band, screaming and thrashing on my bass and, stuff like that. That was kind of the feeling that I was after, because I felt like there was so much trapped anger and resentment that if I could just get it out, it would make me feel better. Mm-hmm. But it didn't. At the time, it didn't. Because I didn't know the proper way to release it.
Yeah.
Instead I kept drawing it to me. And that's how our life is. If you are constantly, what you dish out, you get back.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm constantly negative and I'm constantly putting out this anger and this violence, that's what I got back.
Mm-hmm. And some people do that throughout their whole life, and they never change from that.
They do.
And that is, in my opinion, the saddest people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So here I am, 19 years old. I'm addicted to pain and all that kind of stuff. I mean, as a party gag, I would literally I would take a safety pin, those big, huge safety pins, and I'd poke holes and safety pin my lips together. Ugh. And I'd put them through my eyebrows and all that kind of stuff. And wore bullets around my neck. I had my head shaved in 6 different pieces. So I had long hair in the front, like 2 long braids that were blonded. Because, it was the 90s, man. We had to blonde tip our hair. This was the end of the 90s. But then I shaved horns on my head, so it looked like I had horns, and I'd draw symbols on my head.
That's funny.
And I was that guy that people were like, "Oh, stay away from him."
Yeah.
But really, dude, I just wanted